Welcome you to our Bible study in Acts chapter 23 this morning. This is part 2. We finished up in Acts chapter 23, verse 11 last week. And so now we're going to start off in verse 12 through 22 for this week. So let's read verse 12 to 22 in Acts chapter 23. I'm using the ESV, but you can use whatever translation you're comfortable with and follow along. Acts chapter 23, verse 12, it says, "When it was day, the Jews made a plot and bound themselves by an oath, neither to eat nor drink till they had killed Paul. There were more than 40 who made this conspiracy. They went to the chief priests and elders and said, 'We have strictly bound ourselves by an oath to taste no food till we have killed Paul. Now therefore you, along with the council, give notice to the tribune to bring him down to you, as though you were going to determine his case more exactly. And we are ready to kill him before he comes near.' Now the son of Paul's sister heard of their ambush. So he went and entered the barracks and told Paul. Paul called one of the centurions and said, 'Take this young man to the tribune, for he has something to tell him.' So he took him and brought him to the tribune and said, 'Paul, the prisoner, called me and asked me to bring this young man to you, as he has something to say to you.' The tribune took him by the hand, and going aside, asked him privately, 'What is it that you have to tell me?' And he said, 'The Jews have agreed to ask you to bring Paul down to the council tomorrow, as though they were going to inquire somewhat more closely about him. But do not be persuaded by them, for more than 40 of their men are lying in ambush for him, and who have bound themselves by an oath neither to eat nor drink till they have killed him. And now they are ready, waiting for your consent.' So the tribune dismissed the young man, charging him, 'Tell no one that you have informed me of these things.'" What we have going on here in this section is that more than 40 men swear an oath not to eat until Paul is dead. Yet God uses an unlikely person, Paul's nephew, who overhears the conspiracy. He informs Paul. The Roman commander acts immediately. Notice the irony here. The assassins make elaborate plans. God defeats them through one unnamed young man, Paul's nephew. God often works through ordinary people. Paul's nephew is mentioned nowhere else. Yet he plays a critical role here. Never underestimate small acts of obedience. God's providence is often invisible. There are no miracles here, no angels, no earthquakes, only ordinary events. Yet God is orchestrating every detail. Many of God's greatest works happen behind the scenes. Churches need faithful servants. Not everyone preaches. Some protect. Some encourage. Some give. Some organize. Every believer matters. Let me ask you a few questions. Why do we often overlook ordinary ways God works? Think about that. You can always put the comments in the comments section of our video, or I'll try to post it into our Facebook page and you can make comments there too. Here's another question. How has God used unexpected people in your life? And what gifts has God given you to serve his church? Why is every role in the church important? And what does this passage teach about God's providence? Those are some questions you can go back and answer for yourself and put it in the comments for us. Let's look at now verse 23 to 35. Verse 23 to 35 says, "Then he called 2 of the centurions and said, 'Get ready 200 soldiers with 70 horsemen and 200 spearmen to go as far as Caesarea at the 3rd hour of the night. also provided mounts for Paul to ride and bring him safely to Felix the governor. And he wrote a letter to this effect: Claudius Lysias, to his excellency, the governor Felix, greetings. This man was seized by the Jews and was about to be killed by them when I came upon them with the soldiers and rescued him. Having learned that he was a Roman citizen and desiring to know the charge for which they were accusing him, I brought him down to their council. I found that he was being accused about questions of their law, but charged with nothing deserving death or imprisonment. And when it was disclosed to me that there would be a plot against the man, I sent him to you at once, ordering his accusers also to state before you what they have against him. So the soldiers, according to their instructions, took Paul and brought him by night to Antipatris. And on the next day they returned to the barracks, letting the horsemen go on with him. When they had come to Caesarea and delivered the letter to the governor, they presented Paul also before him. On reading the letter, he asked what province he was from. And when he learned that he was from Cilicia, he said, I will give you a hearing when your accusers arrive. And he commanded him to be guarded in Herod's praetorium. The Roman commander sends 200 soldiers, 70 horsemen, and 200 spearmen. Nearly 500 soldiers escort one missionary. God uses the Roman government, the very empire that would later persecute Christians, to protect Paul. The commander writes a letter presenting himself favorably, yet God still uses him. God is sovereign over governments. Whether rulers are righteous or corrupt, God's plans continue. Believers should pray for governing authorities while remembering that Christ alone is king. God's protection may look unexpected, but Paul probably expected rescue from fellow believers. Instead, Roman soldiers became his protection. God often answers prayers differently than we imagine, don't he? The mission continues. The destination has not changed. Rome still waits. Nothing can stop God's purposes. So here's a couple of discussion questions that I would like for you to consider. How should Christians relate to the government? Why do God's answers often surprise us? Have you ever recognized God's protection only in hindsight? And how does God's sovereignty give peace during uncertain times? How can churches remain mission-focused despite political changes? Those are some few questions for Acts chapter 23 as we wrap up this chapter. But here's some major themes from Acts chapter 23. God is sovereign. Human plans never overrule God's plans. God governs every detail. Even opposition advances the gospel. Courage comes from Christ. Our confidence comes from Jesus, not favorable circumstances. His presence is enough. And integrity matters. Paul's clear conscience gave him boldness. Remember, he said his conscience is clear. He got nothing on me. Character always supports ministry. And God uses ordinary people. Paul's nephew reminds us that God delights in using faithful servants whose names may never become widely known. Faithfulness is more important than fame. Here's one more thing. God's mission cannot be stopped. Jerusalem was not the end. Rome awaited. When God calls his people, he also sustains them. Nothing happens outside his sovereign care. So here's some practical applications for today's church. Develop leaders whose character matches their convictions. Encourage believers who are suffering instead of assuming hardship means failure. Pray for courage rather than comfort alone. Trust God's providence even when he works quietly. Equip every member to serve because every role matters. Keep the gospel central despite cultural opposition. And remember that God's kingdom advances even during political uncertainty. I hope you enjoyed this study in Acts chapter 23 the last couple of weeks. I do want to encourage you that if you have the opportunity and you're in the area of Pasco, Rhode Island, drop by and visit us. We do have Bible study on Wednesday nights at 6 p.m. We also have our service during the summer, morning service on Sunday at 10:30 a.m. During the school year, we have Sunday school at 9:30 and we have service at 10:30 a.m. And we also have upcoming events that we would like to invite you to. Coming at the end of August, on August 26th through the 28th, that's a Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday evening from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. We're having our Brick Builders VBS. So I hope you enjoy that. Those are for ages 5 through 12. We encourage you to drop off your children, and they're going to learn, and using Lego bricks, they're going to learn about God and create things themselves. And we look forward to that time as well. Thank you for joining us today, and I encourage you to join us next week, either here on YouTube Live or on in person in our church on Wednesday evening at 6 p.m. Have a great day. Bless you.